voice of the Cincinnati Reds, and you're up for Late Night Reds Talk.
What's going on, everybody? Happy Wednesday night. It's so great to see you all for another edition of Late Night Reds Talk Live, part of the Believe Podcast Network and brought to you by our good friends at BetOnline. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports, contests, and events with first-to-market odds and lines. Find reviews and news for every sports league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and even golf. Kind of offensive to golf, don't you think? Even golf? Head to BetOnline today and use your mobile device to join and make your first sports bet. Use our promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV 50 to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts. I'm Tim Daniel. I'm very excited for this week's episode. Obviously had a lot of fun getting to see all of you this weekend, but to be back here on the mics with you, of course, is always a good time, starting with our excellent producer, Mr. Nick Kirby.
Hey, what's going on? Weird to do a live broadcast after a game and it be less than a 3-hour game. Used to like these 4-hour marathons. So this is a different experience.
Yeah, I know. I am awake for it, and that's that's a miracle. Yeah. Also joining us, as always, our good friend, former big league pitcher himself, Mr. Carlos Guevara.
What's happening, boys? How y'all doing?
Good. I'm glad to see you got back to Texas. Okay.
Yeah, it was quite the trip back.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Mondays in CVG, man. Whew. And joining us this week, who we also got to hang out with this weekend, was a lot of fun. You know him from Just Baseball and many other places. Our good friend, happy to have him here, Mr. Clay Snowden. What's up, pal? Oh, Clay's on mute. Oh, you're back.
It was great hanging out this weekend. I don't know if my mic was just muted or not, but hey, Evan, Adam, and Ryan in the chat as well. Everybody be active, asking questions in the chat. I know that Carlos is looking forward to answering questions on top prospects in the Reds system and what they could get in return for Luis Castillo. So make sure to ask plenty of questions and hit the like button. Help these guys out by hitting the like button. It's simple.
Holy moly, who's paying this guy?
I know, man. Clay comes on, he's like, "This is my show."
Well, I had to say all that. Nick gave me $50 this weekend to do that.
Absolutely. I definitely appreciate it. Well, before we get into today's show and kind of talk about everything, because I know obviously the trade deadline's approaching, just want to take a quick second to say, as I mentioned, we were all together this past weekend for the Cardinals series in Cincinnati, and we got to meet a lot of you and talk to a lot of you, and it was really cool getting to hang out and get to know everybody and put faces to Twitter accounts and people that are here in the chat every week. So thank you guys for stopping us. Thanks for saying hey. We had a great time, and hopefully we can do it again soon. So let's go ahead and kind of get to the show real quick. Obviously tonight, a nice big W for the Cincinnati Reds in Luis Castillo's potential last start. Luis Castillo goes 7 innings with 8 strikeouts, does give up 3 runs, 2 homers, only has 1 walk, but had a really awesome standing ovation as he was leaving the field by the faithful at GABP. It kind of looks like everyone was expecting. We saw our pal Caleb with the thank you Luis sign in the outfield during the highlight reel. So that was cool. But this Reds team is kind of playing really well at a time. Right now they've won 10 of their last 15. Take 2 out of 3 at the Cardinals. They're up 2 out of 3 right now with 1 more to go against the Marlins before the Orioles come to town, who are a really scrappy baseball team, as Clay can kind of tell us. But really, I mean, Carlos, Nick, really a fun time for the Reds right now with the way they're playing and how things are kind of working out for them.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Reds are, playing solid baseball right now. I mean, probably not going to last after the trade deadline, but, this was the team that I think we could see at the beginning of the year that we thought could be competitive. It's just, they were kind of dead after the start. It kind of is what it is. But, yeah, it was nice to see, Luis. I mean, he's just pitched, I don't know, I would say probably the last month is probably the best we've ever seen Luis. I mean, I don't know. Is that fair? Is that hyperbole? I mean, he's been about as good as I can remember.
No, man. I mean, he's been absolutely on point the last several starts. Even with today giving up 3 runs, it was like I still felt like this was like a masterpiece. He dominated the hitters. He could do whatever he wanted all night long. That seventh inning, that was special. Getting those guys at second and third and getting out of it with no runs. He just wanted to give Cincinnati a reminder on how special he was. It was really fun to watch. It was kind of emotional, kind of got my feelings there a little bit at the end of it, but it was really nice to see.
Yeah, I mean, we have been blessed to watch him pitch for a few years now, and even with the return that he came over for Dan Straley, I mean, it's always been a great joke. I know Nick was retweeting some of the replies to the Reds official account tonight that were clowning that trade back in, I believe, 2017. So it's been a fun time with Luis. I would love to keep him, and I think a lot of people have kind of misunderstood the way that some people like Nick and I have tweeted about trading Luis Castillo. It's not because we necessarily don't want him around. It's more because we understand that the Reds put these limitations on themselves. And so hopefully if the Reds do trade Luis Castillo, the return is awesome and it helps bring winning baseball back to Cincinnati.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Yeah, that's really funny. I saw this earlier when you guys were putting this out. I was kind of laughing at that. I did want to make mention because I got way into the Luis Castillo talk already, and that's on me. Carlos and Nick had a really awesome interview with Reds Director of Amateur Scouting, Joe Katuska, and it's going up tomorrow at 8 o'clock, so you guys can check it out. My daytime job did not let me be a part of it, but this is going to be really cool. Nick and Carlos dived a lot into kind of putting the draft together, what the game plan was, the Red strategy. So I am excited for you guys to check it out. It's going to be really cool. So tomorrow at 8 o'clock, Carlos and Nick talk with Joe Katuska, Director of Amateur Scouting at the Cincinnati Reds. So make sure you check that out. A lot of good insight, especially if you want to know more about Cam Collier. Yeah,
and for those of you who are watching on YouTube, how are you going to pitch that guy in the salmon shirt there? There's no hole in that swing. Good luck.
No chance.
Yeah,
Joe was really generous with his time. Really, gave us a lot of good insight. We asked some really tough questions, and he didn't duck any of them. So I think you guys will enjoy that interview. It'll be up on everything at 8 o'clock tomorrow. It'll be streaming through Twitter and Facebook and YouTube, and then it'll be right up on the podcast, all the podcast channels as well, and you can watch it on replay whenever. So.
The toughest question might have been the very last one that I came back and asked him.
That was good, but you have to wait. You have to wait to find out what that was.
That's what we call in the business a tease.
Carlos
is getting all about the promo now. He's learning fast.
He's a pro.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you, I'm not even joking. I was super impressed with Carlos's interview. Man, he was just bombing in these questions. It was good stuff.
I'm really not surprised. Carlos is just a huge fan of player development and following prospects. I would imagine he'd be all over this interview and have thousands of questions for Joe.
Well,
all right, moving on, guys. Moving on.
Yeah, he got all his prospects out for the week. So good luck tonight.
What's the bigger fandom, Carlos with player development and prospects, or Clay's Jimmy Buffett parrot head side that we found out about this weekend?
That's obvious.
Good luck topping my parrot head fandom.
Clay drove to Cincinnati on Thursday to see Jimmy Buffett and turned right back around and came back to Cincinnati on Saturday from Lexington to go to the Reds game with us. So that's true fandom. Yeah, I totally forgot that Dan Straley was like pitching in the KBO. I remember one time he was like on one of those morning talk shows on ESPN, like what it's like pitching right now in Japan during COVID. Forgot that was a thing there for a bit.
Yeah, I remember that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, at that point, we were listening to like any podcast that was out there. I mean, it was.
Yeah.
I remember during COVID, the Louisville Bats were like streaming old games with like Deion Sanders in them on a Friday night. And I'm like watching on Facebook Live, just loving it.
I know a lot because The Last Dance was basically all we had at that point. So, yeah, I definitely kind of am ready to.
Of course, after LeBron won, MJ had to.
Yeah, all right.
It's another podcast.
The captain's better than The Last Dance.
I still got more episodes of that to watch, so I will let you know how I feel about it.
It's good. It's good.
Yeah. Let's kind of get real quick to Jeff Passan was talking about some of the stuff here and what kind of the word is around baseball. So Luis Castillo, as we know, will almost certainly move in the next week, which keep an eye out for our announcement of what we're going to do at the trade deadline. We're figuring that out. Teams hottest after Castillo are the Cardinals, the Mariners, and the Yankees, which we knew about the Yankees for a while. You kind of see there the Twins, the Blue Jays, and the Pods are also in the hunt. I know Carlos would be excited about that. Executives,
One time, baby.
teams believe Tyler Mahle is also going to be dealt as well. But here's what I found interesting. Kind of get your guys' thoughts on this. So the Reds, they said that they're looking for people to work. The Reds will get a better opportunity than ever to dump Moustakas' contract, and they'll pursue it, knowing they can hold on to Castillo and move him this winter. It's kind of interesting that the Reds are kind of like not wanting to eat the contract at times. You see, looking at storing prospects and kind of just dealing with it. So this is kind of pretty interesting stuff from Passan. Obviously he's, a legend in his field. So
yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. I contend I'd love for them to trade him to the Cardinals. I'd love to hurt their farm system while the Reds aren't competing. I know everyone else probably hates that, but yeah. I also really wonder, Tyler Mahle, I wonder if the qualifying offer, changes the Reds' motivation to trade Mahle. I still think they are, and Passan reported it. I still think they're going to actively try to trade him and at least be shopping him, but I wonder if they're less, they feel less desperate to have to trade him if they're not getting the exact offer that they want back, knowing, hey, worst case scenario, we can hold on to this guy and essentially get another Jay Allen, or Sal Stewart, I guess, would be that level. So, yeah. And then, obviously no one wants the Reds to be dumping Mike Moustakas and diluting a trade. But again, let's see, caution Reds fans. If you see Mike Moustakas' name get in there, wait to see how much money is involved. Like, I would be all for if someone will take like $2 million of Moustakas, which is like nothing. That's Reds still eating a lot of money. I would love for the Reds just to be able to move on, get some other guys some playing time, and just not really have a wasted roster spot right now. But
Yeah, I'm looking at this report, and the Cardinals are very interesting to me as well, Nick. The biggest issue there is like, who are they willing to give up? And Mason Wynn is a name that a lot of people have been throwing around in trades. Two-way player, actually, shortstop, pitcher, but they're also in the Soto trade talks. And I think that they are the best landing spot for Soto. I wonder if that's going to play a factor into this, although I personally don't think Soto will get traded at this deadline. Tyler Mahle, Luis Castillo, I could both see them being dealt. I personally think it's the right move to deal both of them. About the Moustakas thing, I totally agree with Nick. All because you're throwing him in does not mean that you're completely tanking the package in return. It all has to do with how much money the Reds are willing to pay of Moustakas' contract. At this point, he is legitimately playing at a level of a DFA type player. If you can convince somebody to take him on, that would be incredible. As long as the caveat there is it doesn't completely tank the return.
yeah, I agree. Especially like you're looking at teams like Atlanta right now who are playing, Robinson Cano while they're waiting for Ozzy Albies to come back. And, Mike Moustakas is probably playing. Clay, you can probably speak to this better than I can for sure. Playing pretty close to the level Robinson Cano's been playing at the past year or so. So,
yeah, Robinson Cano's about as bad as it gets right now. And that's why he continues to bounce around. Teams are convincing themselves that there's still power in that bat, and there just simply isn't.
Well, I know Nick kind of has this here, kind of talking about all the teams rumored to show interest. Clay, in your eyes, knowing how well knowledgeable you are about prospects and things like that, which of these organizations really give the Reds the best opportunity to kind of stack up on guys and potentially kind of build the farm system and maybe get some guys who can be major leaguers for them?
Yeah, and I'll go through kind of a process of elimination. And those of you who are listening on Spotify, the teams listed are Yankees, Dodgers, Astros, Cardinals, Padres, Mariners, Twins, Mets, Blue Jays. I'll go ahead and scratch off the Mets. I think that the Twins are interesting. I think they're closer to O'Malley than Castillo return, just where their prospect system ranks right now. They don't have a ton in their farm. Austin Martin's really not it, and he's one of their top prospects. The Cardinals do have enough to get that deal done. I still wonder if, I know that we've all kind of moved past the trading in the division thing, especially with playing less division games against the Cardinals going forward, but I wonder if the front office still feels that way or not. The Astros are interesting enough. I don't like their prospect system at all. You could get like a Pedro Leon, who's a center fielder, who's 23 years old. He's interesting. He's outside of the top 100. They have a couple of arms you could throw in there, but in reality, like I would not want to trade Luis Castillo to the Astros simply because of the return. Blue Jays are in a similar boat. Mariners, we've already dealt with them. They have prospects that would be very attractive in return. I don't want Emerson Hancock. I know that's a name that continues to be thrown around. And for those of you on Twitter who see Mariners accounts, every single trade includes Emerson Hancock. There's a reason why, because they don't want him. They know that he's trending towards a reliever instead of a starter, and they don't think his ceiling's high. That's why they're throwing him in every single trade. Padres, I wouldn't do that simply because it would make Carlos too happy. Dodgers, I mean, if there's a team that's going to do it, and just load up, it's the Dodgers. And I talked about this on Just Baseball State of the Division. The Dodgers don't function like other teams. We need to remove our fandom hat and put ourselves in the Dodgers fan. If they have a starting pitcher go down, they don't go out and get Chad Kuhl to eat innings the rest of the year. They say, screw it, we'll go out and get a Luis Castillo. So I do see them as a strong possibility. And then the Yankees are the team that's always been rumored. It kind of seems like the perfect fit. This is, the Yankees is the girl at junior prom that you wanted to go with, but instead she went with Carlos. And now it's senior prom. You get another chance. Carlos has put on 10 pounds. She's kind of moved on from Carlos.
Oh, muscle.
It's time to reunite with that girl. I think the Yankees would be the favorite to land him. I think the Dodgers are close to, maybe Seattle at 3, Blue Jays at 4, something like that is how I would rank it.
So
I think I
what
would
you're
at least
saying
want
is-
him to go least to the Yankees and then St. Louis. Like I'd rather him go to St. Louis rather than the Yankees.
I just wonder how much. I think the Soto trade happens in the offseason because it is so freaking complicated to pull off a trade that big.
Yeah,
And in the
everybody's been
offseason,
like,
you have
whoa, he's available? We need more time than just 3 weeks to give you a package.
Exactly. And just in terms of roster construction going forward, 40-man spots. I mean, there's a lot to be considered when trading potentially 6 top prospects for someone like Soto. But if he were to be moved, a lot of these teams on that list are interested in that. And there goes their prospect capital and takes Luis Castillo out of the running.
Yeah. So Nick just posted this from our friends at Bet Online, as far as, or maybe not by his reaction of his face. We'll just go with it and say it's on there. Check out Bet Online and get some money. Luis Castillo's next team odds: the Yankees are the favorites at plus 300. Blue Jays 350, Dodgers 400, Cardinals and Giants at 500, Twins at 600, Braves at 700, Mets at 900. So pretty interesting there. I'm guessing that if there's a Twins deal, there's no chance that Nick Gordon comes to Cincinnati. I'm guessing that's off the books.
He would be the last piece in the trade deal, and it wouldn't move the needle at all. Not a very good player. One player I do like is Spencer Steer from Minnesota. I like their players. It would involve Alex Kirilloff, one of Alex Kirilloff,
like
Jose Miranda, or Trevor Larnach, and all of them kind of have flaws. All of them are super young. They fill positions of needs for the Reds. It would make sense. I'm just wondering if there's reluctancy from the Twins to trade from the major league roster in a year that, I mean, they're just, I know they're in first place, but that division sucks, and that team is not exactly deep enough. They need more than one arm. You can't give up 2 or 3 players on your roster and add one arm and still need 2 more.
It feels like it's gonna. I mean, I don't have anything like. It's just the hunch I have is it feels like it's gonna be the Yankees.
Yeah,
kinda
Goes
where
to
I'm
the
at.
Mariners. Holy F! I'm gonna wear like Mariners stuff the rest of the season.
I almost wore my Mariners quarter zip for you today, but I figured that would be a little bit inappropriate.
It would not have been.
Yeah, I definitely feel like the Yankees are heavy favorites in this. I mean, unless they go out and get another starter, unless there's someone else that comes out on the market. I know Lopez from the Marlins was just rumored to be on the market. I don't know, maybe
he's
that,
good.
but Castillo just feels like the perfect fit for the Yankees. The only other thing I would add on the Astros is, I mean, the Astros could look at trading major league talent, especially if maybe they're making some other deals, to fill some other gaps. That's the only way I see the Astros being able to pull off a deal for Castillo is if they're trading some sort of major league talent. Maybe they're trading one of their other starting pitchers that they like but don't love for this year. That's the only way I see it working.
Yeah,
So what
they
Nick's
just
saying
don't
is,
have a lot of young talent that I mean, Jeremy Pena is a star. They're not going to trade him. I just don't really know like how much young talent. Their center fielders are young, but none of them move the needle.
I'm thinking like a Javier, like
A Christian Javier, yeah.
where they're giving up. It sounds weird to give up a starting pitcher, but you're just upgrading your starting pitcher, and then the Reds are getting back a starting pitcher with a lot more control. That's the only way I see it. Is if they did like Javier, and then maybe they did, I don't know, something like, I don't know,
Forrest Whitley,
or who's their backup center fielder, or McCormick.
Jake Myers, Jose Siri,
Jim Edmonds.
what about
Jake
this Yordan
McCormick.
Alvarez guy? Do you think the Reds could get him? I hear he's pretty decent.
He had an absolute tank today in Oakland.
Yeah, I have him in my
There you
dynasty
are.
league. He's so fun. I'm such a big fan. But yeah, I think I kind of go to Nick's point. I definitely really feel like with the case of like, the Yankees are probably the heavy favorites. Pablo Lopez, who I just saw pitch in person last night, I was blown away how good he was in person. Really impressed.
Yeah, like Joey just said, if the Cardinals get Soto and Castillo,
There's no
we're
way.
done.
There's no way.
that would be a lot. I mean, they wouldn't
We're
have
done.
a
We're
farm
shutting
system
the show down for the year. We're just gonna.
So are the Cardinals. They're going to have no farm system ever.
Yeah, no
Who
farm
cares?
system. Like they
Who
probably
cares?
can't play with 26 at that point because of their salary.
They'll make new rules. They'll be able to have them. Like, don't worry about that.
Pujols and Yachty will be back next year on like league minimum contracts just to fill roster spots.
What a nightmare situation. Thanks, Joey.
What about Tyler Mahle? Because I know we're gonna get to this in a little bit as far as like the guys that we kind of feel will be traded. And Passan had in that report, he kind of felt like a lot of the league expects he'll be traded. I didn't say that he would be traded because I was playing it really conservative. I'm not very good at the prediction game, as you see here. As I think you all know, Carlos didn't have Mahle either. So just Clay and Nick did. So you guys are in the idea that you do believe he'll be traded. What does a package for him look like? Because obviously he's not, I don't know. Is it, I wouldn't say it's similar to Castillo by any means, but it's got to be pretty decent, right?
I don't think it's much less. I mean, it's less, but I don't think it's, I think you're looking for a top 100 prospect for him plus something else. So yeah, it's certainly not a bargain deal. That's for sure.
Yeah, and it all
I
just
think it's
depends
definitely.
on.
Go ahead.
Sorry. With Mahle, my main concern is over the past 3 years, he's just proven he cannot pitch at home. I don't know why. Maybe I'm reading too much into that. I just am worried about giving money and long-term deals to someone who struggles in their own ballpark. It kind of sucks. It would be like, a player who can't hit in a ballpark. Would you want to re-sign him there for money? It's just because I do think he's a really good pitcher. I do think the return for that will be good. It's similar to Castillo. He's a little bit younger, still has a year left of control. And the starting pitching market this season at the deadline is weak. There's a lot of Chad Kuhl's, Jose Quintana type inning eaters round out the end of your rotation. There's not a lot of guys with the upside Malley brings and the production. He's a solid number 3 right now in a lot of rotations. Top 100 prospect, I could see them go that route, and then lesser secondaries probably. I could also see them going a route where they get a few players who are high upside. And before everyone jumps to, and I know we use this as a parameter, just saying top 5 in a system. Each system's different. If you look at the Guardians, they have 8 top 100 players. If you got their 8th best prospect, you're pretty excited. If you got the A's 8th best prospect, you would be doing terrible.
Is that Kyler Murray?
No, it is not, believe it or not.
Okay, I thought it might be with how their farm system was.
He'd be in their top 10. So yeah, I do think Malley gets moved simply because of his inability to pitch at home, and I just don't see them tying money up in a guy that struggled there. And I hate to say that because I love watching him pitch, and I really wish that they could keep him. It just doesn't seem likely.
So who's like a big, San Diego. Is San Diego a good fit for Tyler Malley because of the size of their ballpark, showing the inability to struggle at times in small parks? Maybe, I don't think they're getting CJ Abrams by any means in a Tyler Malley deal, but is that a fit for him for a team that's a postseason contender, getting healthy, and having him and guys like Musgrove in a short series? Is that like a good fit in your eyes?
I don't think so.
Okay.
They have the Joe Musgrove deal coming up after the year that they're going to be pumping a ton of money into. Mackenzie Gore is kind of a young guy. He's injured, but they have enough right now with Clevenger and Martinez can at least pitch some innings. I see them more on the inning eaters type of trade market instead of Tyler Malley. Now, one team that I actually talked to Ryan Finkelstein, Locked On Mets and Just Baseball's editor, about that he brought up, I had not thought about, is the Rays. Doesn't Malley just seem like the type of guy that goes to the Rays and they figure out whatever it is with him because he shows the talent? He just needs something to be figured out. And next thing you know, Tyler Malley's leading the Rays. Now, that is an interesting team to look into because they have a good prospect system and players at the MLB level that you could target, including Josh Lowe, who's a center fielder, something that, the Reds could use.
All right, cool. Wander Franco coming to the Reds.
Yeah.
Tyler Malley. Love it. Sign me up.
I like the concept of the Rays. I could totally see him winning the Cy Young next year with the Rays. I just wonder if he'd be too expensive for them next year because he's probably going to be pushing $10 million next year.
Well, Nick, are the Guardians a possibility because of their prospect system? And they have Quantrill, they have Shane Bieber.
Yeah, I think Malley would. I went on a Guardians podcast and I was actually kind of saying I think Malley makes more sense than Castillo. I think Malley makes sense for just about any team except maybe like the Yankees and Dodgers. I mean, I think anyone could use him. San Diego, like Clay said, again, I think he might be too expensive for them next year because their budget's pretty well maxed out, I believe. So I think like they're looking for like the Brandon Drury's. They're looking for the budget players, at this point to kind of add. So
yeah, we all had Drury on our list, so I do want to touch on him. But Nick and Carlos, I want to get your guys' thoughts on this real quick before we get to some questions we had from the chat. You both listed Tyler Naquin as a guy who we think will get traded for the deadline. And obviously, the reasons of left-handed bat, has shown promise. Has been really good for the Reds into what his role's supposed to be, really, the 2 seasons he's been here. But is this a situation with him where, like, Carlos and I have had this conversation about Drury where, is Drury going to be in a better situation than he has with the Reds? Like, is this something where he's going to make, next year the Reds can sign him for maybe $3 million and they're comfortable and he's comfortable? Like, is that kind of similar for Naquin? Like, we've talked throughout the season about, like, if it were up to us, we would give Naquin and Drury extensions at least for another year. So you guys both had him listed. What was kind of your thought process there?
I just think he's too good of like a streaky hitter, and that's what teams want to take a chance on. Like, you're not going to get a good return for him, in my opinion. I think you're going to get, I don't know, maybe a big league reliever. I don't know. I just don't think you're going to get the return that you're thinking of. And I mean, might as well just take the chance on that if you're the Reds, because he's not going to stay here beyond this. So go out there and get what you can for him. I think teams would want him the way that he hits right-handed pitching, and he's a good, solid outfielder. And like I said, he gets streaky. If he gets streaky, like in a playoff series, that guy could end up being like an MVP of a pennant league team. That's how streaky he can get.
Yeah, I put Naquin on here more just because I think the Reds are going to want to trade one outfielder, because they have like guys like Jake Fraley and Aristides Aquino that they're probably going to want to play in the second half. So I think one of Pham or Naquin gets traded. I think I went to Naquin because Naquin's cheaper than Pham and less baggage.
I'd say more likable.
So I don't think the Reds will get anything for Naquin, though. I mean, I think he's like when the Reds traded Scooter Gennett, like he might be like some cash, because he was making $4 million this year, so that's like what $1.5 million for 2 months. So I don't think you're going to get much for him, but I think it makes sense to move him or Pham, at least one of them, just so you can get some of these other guys, some at bats in the second half that you have, control of long term. And Brandon Drury, I've said it before, you can trade him and try to re-sign him again in the offseason, especially if he goes somewhere and struggles.
On Naquin, these type of profiles are available every single year at the deadline. Fourth outfielders. And as I was writing all of the deadline previews, I just realized it's going to become a game of musical chairs. How many David Peraltas and Jordan Luplos and Tyler Naquins are needed on contenders? There's a lot more available than needed. So it really comes down to, okay, is Tyler Naquin going to get moved as opposed to one of those other ones? He struggled a lot with injuries throughout his career. I wonder if a team would rather just say, okay, I'm going to get David Peralta. I'm going to get, the whole list of other players who fit a similar profile instead of Naquin. Either way, I do agree with what Nick was saying. Like, Jake Fraley needs at-bats. I have no idea who Aquino is. I've never heard that name in my life, but I hope he doesn't get any at-bats with the Reds in the second half. I don't want to hear his stats against lefties. I don't want to hear it. I'm done with that guy.
Wait till you see the rehab.
I missed that. Jake Fraley needs at-bats?
I would rather see Jake Fraley at-bats than Aquino at-bats.
Who is this Jake Fraley? Does he play for the Reds? I feel like he doesn't exist anymore.
I'd rather see neither.
Well, yeah, I mean,
but
I would rather there be an upgrade.
You have control of Jake Fraley for 4 years. Like,
cool.
For nothing. I mean, like, this is the year you want to see these guys play. See what they've got.
Aquino
we've seen enough of Jake Fraley.
Aquino has.
I promise you, we've seen enough of Jake Fraley.
Aquino only has he has a pretty good, he has a good arm and he has some power. Everything else is pretty suspect. At least Fraley has a couple of things he's shown at times. I'm not saying he's going to be anything more than a fourth outfielder, but with the control, I don't know. I'd rather see Fraley at this point.
I think you'll see both.
Yeah,
I'm sure we will this year.
You think Naquin's going to end up on like Nick said with the Scooter Gennett trade? Do you think he's going to end up on some goofy team like?
It's going to be the White Sox.
Yeah, it's going to be like the White Sox or Baltimore, because they're 2.5 out of the wild card, and they're going to try to beef up and get their fourth outfielder to go with Santander.
Baltimore's 2.5 out of the wild card?
Yeah.
He legit makes sense for the White Sox. He really does.
I mean, Carlos was saying he's kind of got that Eddie Rosario vibes. He's a better player than Eddie Rosario was at the deadline last year, and he's that's the exact time I could absolutely see him, getting hot in the playoffs and helping a team like Rosario did for the Braves. I mean, but yeah, I don't think the Reds are going to get anything for him. Just like
whatever the Guardians can do to help Tony La Russa win a World Series. Whatever you need, Tony.
Yeah. All right, so I know this would be kind of something that's gonna be a hot button for the next week, and I'm sure we'll keep we'll probably keep doing stuff as it goes on. But we actually got a ton of questions from the chat that we want to get to before we kind of go into everything else. So this one's from Adam. Please don't kill me if I get your last name wrong. Adam Godemuller. Is the Reds bullpen half decent or just a hot streak?
It's a hot streak. Next question.
Yeah.
I would say it's more of just return to the norm. Like they were so bad. Like
norm. What do you mean the norm?
The norm of bad. Like they were like there was guys that had like 9 and 10 ERAs. Like none of them are that bad. They're bad, but they're not that bad. So I mean, I think some of it's just evening out.
I just found the next thing that Nick's going to clip of Carlos, or his next GIF of Carlos's face just going.
I don't think Reaver San Martin's going to have a 9 ERA as a reliever forever. I mean,
God, you hope not.
Clay, you got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that there's a couple players who are good in this bullpen. I don't think that they're great. I mean, Alexis Diaz is a good player, and I think San Martin has shown a little bit since the move to the bullpen to actually believe he could factor into next year's bullpen. But I'm kind of siding with Carlos here. I think it's more of a hot streak. And this is what bullpens are. When you're pitching one inning at a time, everything's going to fluctuate back and forth. If you look at a player's ERA in the bullpen, it doesn't really mean much. Carlos was a great bullpen pitcher. His ERA didn't reflect that, though. That's nothing he could have done about that. It's not always about a bullpen ERA.
All right, this one's from Jackson Hall. Do you think the Brewers or Cardinals will make a bigger splash in trades, or neither? I think I might have said this to you guys over the weekend, where I understand they have Goldschmidt and Arenado, and I know they're like 4 or 5 games over 500. I'm not really blown away by the Cardinals. I mean, I know they have a winning record. I know they're in the playoff hunt, but like, they didn't really impress me this week at all.
That's the thing.
So I think they're going to
be blown away by them. They're going to get in because there's an extra playoff team in, and they're slightly better than average, so they're going to get in.
Yeah, I
think they'll spend more money than the Brewers at the trade deadline to make that happen.
I think the Brewers are probably at close to their max spending.
Yeah.
The Brewers, if you look at their spending, this is the most I think they've spent in like ever. I think this is their highest payroll. I could be wrong, but they're not much higher than this ever. So I think the Cardinals probably have more wiggle room with ownership. But I don't know, both of the Brewers, though, I look at that team and I go, I don't know how long that window is. So if I was them, I feel like I'd be trying to be aggressive and capitalizing on what you got now, because those pitchers are going to start getting really expensive. And unless their ownership changes course completely, because they typically spend less than the Reds, I don't, and they got Yelich for a long time, and that deal is not going to age well, in my opinion. So
not aging well already.
Yeah, but I mean the Cardinals too. I mean they got Goldschmidt and Arenado. I mean they only got Goldschmidt for next year. Arenado, I mean he's got like 2 or 3, but both those players, I don't know how much longer they're going to be at the level they're at. So I think both of those teams should be aggressive.
Yeah, I was writing the Brewers trade deadline, and I hated it just because I hate the way that this team's constructed and the lack of flexibility that they have. Really, all that I could think that they could do was add Michael A. Taylor to the center field. Not a very exciting addition. He just kind of fits what they do and what they need. They desperately need a center fielder, and they need an additional bat on top of that, someone who can actually impact the baseball. I just don't see them doing it, though, for the same reasons that Nick said. The Cardinals have a better prospect system and young players in the MLB that could be traded, so I would go with the Cardinals.
Can Hunter Renfroe play center field?
Not well.
I mean, I was thinking, like, could they use like a Tyler Naquin? And I mean, Naquin could play center field, but that's a pretty big ballpark for a bad center fielder.
I mean, they have Tyrone Taylor and Jonathan Davis playing center field since Lorenzen Cain got cut. The team is just, they need someone who's a legit center fielder and preferably someone who's a plus defender There's just not much of that out on the trade market right now. They're not going to get a Ramon Laureano. There'll be too much of a bidding war for him, even though I don't think he's anything incredible.
I bet Billy
that's just what the
Hamilton's
market
available.
I was
is.
about to say, do you think they'll go after Billy Hamilton because he's doing nothing in Miami but running bases and that big ballpark to play like a defensive replacement?
No.
Isn't Billy
Okay.
Hamilton just Lorenzo Kane?
Yeah, he is, but way cheaper at this point.
Lorenzo Kane,
They're paying Lorenzo. They're still paying Lorenzo.
Yeah, I mean, and we just saw this weekend Billy Hamilton can play second base still. So,
Yeah.
there's that.
I think Michael A. Taylor will be, or a player of that caliber. Fans will not be extremely excited about it. And once again, they're going to the playoffs with a lineup that is not good enough to compete in October.
Yeah, they got two guys that you worry about. But I say that, of course, Andrew Kisner will hit like 700 in the first round. And
Tim, don't mention people by name, please. Quit mentioning people by their names.
If he gets Andrew Kisner hot, then
I got some sort of touch.
Oh, would you be surprised, Nick?
that would be surprising. Like at least Rowdy Tellez, I could see some potential there. And I mean, Freddie Freeman's Freddie Freeman, but if he gets Andrew Kisner.
Yeah, that would for sure decide.
You just underestimated the power of Tim, the Spider-Man Daniel.
Yeah.
So Zachary Ertel, have we not been continuously rebuilding aside from the COVID year?
My point to this, and I said this on a podcast last night, and I hope the Reds can get to a point, because I think trading Jesse Winker in the offseason was the right move. You hate me for it. I hope the Reds get to a point where they can make a move like that and it doesn't tank their season. And they've got to trade Luis Castillo now, and they've got to keep their farm system stocked and not be in the bottom half of the farm system rankings most years to make that kind of deal and it not tank your season. So that would be my only comment on that.
All I want to say about that is a side note on prospect rankings. Right now, they're going to be changing a ton. And someone's going to say the Reds are not a good system. There's multiple things happening. A lot of rookies are graduating. So you have, Reds players who are graduating from the prospect status. You have other teams graduating. So there's going to be fluctuation. And then they're going to be, the draft classes are coming in. And most overrank the draft class. I don't know if you remember when Austin Hendrick came in, he was ranked extremely high right away. They always rank the first round picks and even second round picks pretty damn high for whatever reason. So I wouldn't read too much into the state of the prospect rankings right now.
Yeah, I think that's fair. But, I'm also trying to talk myself out of being overtly excited about Cam Collier because everything I'm reading makes it sound like they just got, the future of the corner of the infield for eternity.
Yeah, I think they did. I believe.
So Kyle RX or else. It's a pretty fascinating YouTube ID there, my friend. There's not enough talent in the organization as a whole, so what's the point of extending Castillo? They're well under 500 with him here and an underwhelming minor league system.
I just don't think you should extend a guy that's on the wrong side of 30 that's a pitcher. I don't think it really has anything to do with as much where they're at. I think they should have, if they were going to extend.
How many years would you be okay with them extending him?
I think they should have tried to extend Luis Castillo back in 2020, and where they're buying up his last couple years of arbitration and only going a few years into his 30s, as opposed to a contract that starts at 31 years old that's going to 37 or 38. I just think that's too much risk for the way the Reds spend. I would think it's too much risk for even the Cardinals. I don't think it would be a good long-term move.
But that's not my question. How many years would you be willing to give him?
Oh,
Three?
if he wants
Five?
if he wants a 3-year deal, sure, sign me up. I mean, I'd be all
Is
for
5
that.
too many?
He's going to capitalize on the season that he's having this offseason and get a deal that takes him near 40 years old. That's what they all do. That's what all of the agents will push for. You never see a pitcher of his caliber at 30 years old take a 3-year deal because they have the opportunity to take 7-8-year deals or whatever it is. I would be shocked if he signs anything under a 5-year deal.
Can I point out real quick too? I just want to kind of make sure of this underwhelming minor league system. I understand the past, sure. I mean, like there's like Bob, Steve, Nick Travieso drafts, absolutely. But like if you look at this like major league roster right now, so Green, Lodolo, Ashcraft all came up through the Red system. Tyler Stevenson came up through the Red system. Jonathan India came up through the Red system. Nick Senzel, you can say it took him a long time to get to be a productive major league player, and he had to get knocked down in the order, but he's been a productive major league player. Came up in the Red system. So like, and Clay, you guys can speak this better than I can. I don't know of a ton of teams, and yes, they're rebuilding, and yes, they're kind of going through their transition, these peaks and valleys that everyone mocks, but I don't know how many guys have 6 homegrown guys in their everyday, in their top of the rotation and their everyday lineup at this point. So
I think the more
that can be kind of tricky, man, because look where they are. It's not like these guys are making major impacts. We can see, like, hopefully we want them to be better.
Sure. I understand
all of them
that.
are just right now. They're like, Reds fans are viewing them as like, oh, here's the next answer. Here's the next answer. Tyler Stevenson, he should be the middle of the pack bat, but no, he's not. Tyler Stevenson's a great catcher. He's a great hitting catcher. He's not a great middle of the infield or middle of the lineup type of bat. Like Jonathan India, he has to have so many things going right for him. He has to stay healthy. These pitchers, like you got to be careful talking about how many prospects they have coming up with the Reds and like how they view them, because every team has that.
That's fair.
And we're just looking at them for hope. But I mean, they got to make moves, man. You can't just rely on what's coming up through the minor league system, because nobody wins with just the minor league system.
Yeah, and I understand that. And that's not, I mean, I certainly understand what you're saying. I just was kind of saying, like, I don't know how many people how many teams have drafted this high and have 6 of their own first round picks actually like there. And yeah, you're right. I mean, obviously, where they're at is definitely disappointing, but I think a lot of that was decisions they made outside of the draft as well.
Yeah, one other quick point about Castillo in the years. So this last offseason, Gossman, Ray, and Rodriguez all got 5-year deals, and none of those 3 pitchers have nearly the track record of Castillo. They both had Gossman, and all 3 of those guys had really good 2021 seasons, but they didn't have like 4 good seasons back to back to back. So I mean, I think you're probably talking like 6 or 7. They're all around the same age range too. So that would be one thing to add to that.
That's kind of what I'm asking you. Would you be okay if the Reds extended Castillo for 5 years, Nick?
Probably not. I mean, I would say like 4 or less. Again, I don't think he's going to want 5 years.
He's going to get
the
over
question
25
is, like,
million
would you
per
do it
year
for 5 years?
5 for 25. What is that? I mean, I don't know. Maybe I don't.
Because I think he projects better than what like Johnny Cueto did after the Reds traded him. I think he's going to be a better pitcher the second half of his career. Even like Johnny's been great. He's been a very solid pitcher. I think Castillo's going to project better than that, because I think he works at it a little bit harder than Johnny. Like Johnny probably was a little bit more talented, but I think Castillo works at it. He keeps his body in shape longer. I think he's going to age better.
He has less innings too than I think Cueto had when he hit free agent. So no, I mean, I agree with that. Sure, 525. Maybe you could talk me into that. I don't think that's
how many teams.
I think it's more like 200. I think it's more like
how
700.
many teams that have finished under 500 recently have signed a pitcher on their own team to an extension of 5 years over 25 million. It just doesn't happen.
Reds Homer Bailey.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't want to comment too much. I know that's Carlos's buddy, but
yeah, watch him run.
Yeah, I supported the Bailey side.
It doesn't happen.
I did
often.
too.
And what happens if
and I was wrong.
He says, and you have to put yourself in his shoes too. What makes everyone thinks he immediately wants to sign an extension right now? Why would his agent, and this is who does a lot of the deals, is the agent. It's not them communicating with Luis Castillo solely. the agent probably is going to say test free agency after next season.
Yeah.
Okay, so you want to just keep him around for next year. There's no reason for him to sign this extension unless the money is really good, because a lot of teams will outbid the Reds once he does reach free agency. It has more to do with his agent probably telling him not to sign an extension, even if the Reds wanted him to, because he's going to make more money on the open market than he would signing with the Reds.
Especially this close to free agency. A couple years ago, maybe it's a different story because there's still a long, and the agent's going to weigh in all that kind of stuff. Like, there's a lot of risk, staying healthy and productive for 4 more years as opposed to another year and a half. Like, honestly, even if Castillo got hurt next year, he's still going to get a good contract, right? Because he's pitched long enough and has enough of a track record. Trevor Story
Noah Syndergaard didn't pitch at all last year, or like hardly at all.
Yeah.
He got $20 million. Noah Syndergaard, who has been injured for like 2 straight years. That's how expensive. Jordan Lyles got $7 million to pitch for the Orioles this year. Starting pitching is extremely expensive.
And Trevor Story would be a good cautionary tale on thinking you can extend a guy and then you get to free agency and you get outbid.
Yeah.
They got nothing for him. So that's there's risk in keeping him, even if you thought you could extend him. So
yeah, good talk. Like it. Do you have any more you want to get to the inevitable doom debate?
I know that there were some trade proposals put up there.
Just too many comments, guys. I can't read through all.
That's good. Keep them rolling in.
Yeah, it's great.
Clay, I
like this one.
Yeah, Clay. What is Daniel
Veloheen? He's a catcher who just got moved up to Double-A. Veloheen, I'm pretty sure how you say his name.
Hit 2 home runs tonight, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Yeah. He had 2 home runs tonight. He was a guy I kind of caught on to last year and started watching and thought, okay, this is definitely a player to keep an eye on. He has a really sweet swing from the left side with power. I haven't seen too much of him. Like I don't watch catcher defense when I watch. I'm not typically looking for the catchers. I'm usually watching the pitchers whenever I watch games. But I know he's got a cannon. I've seen him throw out some players. So I actually do think, in terms of his ceiling, he kind of reminds me of a guy who was in the system a couple years ago. I just blanked on his name. Went to the Giants. Oh my gosh. Bottom line, I think he's going to be a legitimate backup catcher. I don't personally see him having the ceiling as someone who can, move Tyler Stevenson to first and put this guy in a catcher. I don't see that being the case. But backup catchers are really expensive too. Good backup catchers are expensive. If this guy can pan out, it would be great, especially because the Reds have just invested so much in the catching position in the top 3 rounds of the draft, and none of them have really panned out. Besides Tyler Stevenson.
Nice to see a catcher with power. He went 1 for 11 when I saw him, the series I saw him, so I wasn't too impressed.
When was the last time the Reds saw a catcher with power?
Devin Mesoraco.
Friend of the program, Devin Mesoraco.
Yeah.
Tucker Barnhart.
Don't you mock him.
Deonor Navarro.
And his 241 slugging percentage.
I hope that this
him.
isn't too mean to say on here, but I did see somebody tweet that they took their kid to Comerica in Detroit because he was such a big Tucker Barnhart fan from Cincinnati to go. And I was just sitting there like, oh man, I hope they know that Tucker's not really playing much anymore and he's been terrible. And the kid was so excited to be at Comerica to see Tucker. At least he's a good guy.
Ooh.
Can I go ahead and run with this?
Yeah, I'll read.
Yeah, why don't you go in the house and tell us what you and Nick were doing in the bathroom?
Whoa!
I will explain that actually.
Trying to keep it PG around here now, guys.
Do you want me to read the question?
Go for it.
Yeah,
okay. It's your show. What am I here for?
Well, you said you were going to read the question. There's a silence. So
I'm
Alex Wallace asked, what was Clay's new uniform set idea? So I have this theory that whenever teams are due for new uniforms, it's usually at the time that the team has had that uniform for several years and it's kind of looks outdated now, and they've been bad. They're going to keep that uniform until the upswing years. We saw the Padres do this when they switched their uniforms. I know that a lot of teams do it in the NBA. Golden State switched theirs around the same time. Cleveland did as well, a little bit late for Cleveland. It's just kind of a theme that starts when you see a team, you want to generate more interest in that team because they're starting to swing towards being good. It's a perfect time if they want to do it 2024, 2025, if they have their top prospects up, if interest is down after a few years of being bad, why not break out some new uniforms? I don't really know what they look like. There's some discussion on that. I don't really care. I'm done with the ones that they currently wear. I'm just sick of them. Bring a new breath of fresh air. The Bengals did it, didn't they? I mean,
Yeah.
There's example after example of this happening. So I'm going on record today, July 27th at 10:23 p.m., 2024 new Reds uniforms, and we will all have strong opinions on them.
As long as they're not cutoffs, I'm cool with it.
Bring on the cutoffs, baby.
Oh my God, those are the
No,
worst.
I'm joking. I don't want cutoffs either.
I think the Reds should have like 6,000 different uniforms, just wear different uniforms all the
Why
time.
did they wear so many that one year? Like, what was it, 3 years ago?
That was
They had like a
100
No,
new
150th
uniform.
anniversary. Yeah, they were doing like the
Should always do that. Just
yeah, I love
why
that.
not just do it all the time?
yeah, I don't understand. It was so, like, who doesn't love that?
So
Unless you're like a prominent like playoff team, like we're in the playoffs every year. We want like people in like the Braves that or the Cubs, like something like that. Like, okay, well, you're the Reds. You haven't been prominent for 30 years, so just go ahead and wear everything.
yeah. So we are Penn State Reds does make a great point, and this is true. I learned this a few years ago when I was working in sports retail. So if a new jersey's happening, it's already in development. For Nike, it takes 3 or 4 years for them to get the product out. So
Well, Nike's not making these jerseys. It's still Majestic. Nike's putting their symbol on them.
yeah, I mean, unless you're Oregon gets New Jersey like every Tuesday. So yeah, they're kind of the only ones. But yeah, I'm with Clay. I'm ready for new unis. It's long overdue. I'm very bored with what they have right now, and we said it all weekend. Bring back the pullovers. We all love them. All right, Ian Harold, we got to do it because it's asked every week. What to do with Tyler Stevenson? Keep him behind the dish or possibly transition to first base DH? Good idea to maybe target a top catching prospect. Castillo to Toronto from Moreno, return in smaller package. All right. I know we're going to be asked this every week, so I'm just going to say the same thing every week. The Reds are better with Tyler Stevenson as a catcher. If he wants to keep playing catcher, they should keep letting him play catcher. I understand that he has gotten some injuries, but it's not recurring like, oh, I tore my ACL again, or this. It's like, I got a concussion. I broke my collarbone on a freak accident. It's not like it's like, the same thing over and over again, where it's like, okay, this is concerned. Like when Buster Posey moved to first base was because like he was having that leg issue from when he had that freak play at the plate. Joe Mauer just kind of got to the point where he was having the same injuries over and over again. I was like, okay, to be safe here. The Reds are so much better with Tyler Stevenson a catcher. I understand the window of Joey Votto's contract expiring and they need to have a backup plan at first base. We've talked about this a million times. I'm totally okay if Tyler Stevenson plays first base a day or so a week. I'm totally okay if he DHs a day or so a week, as long as he's in the lineup. But they are better with him behind the plate. The pitching is better with him behind the plate. The lineup is better with him behind the plate.
Yeah, it's just so easy right now, like a decision to make. It's been freak injuries. The only thing that like kind of would make me pause is the concussions, but they don't seem to worry him or any of the camp around him. The other injuries have been freakish, but like give him another year because he wants to be a catcher. The organization wants him to be a catcher. If he's going to make money, he's going to be a catcher. And if he gets hurt all next year, then guess what? He's still going to be with the Reds in the big leagues. Joey will probably not be there. And if he does, he's going to sign to be like a DH for that next year for the 24 year. So go ahead and let him, this year, it's a wash. It sucks. He got hurt the majority of the time, freakish accidents. Next year, he comes back and try to do it again. If he stays healthy, then, oh my gosh, the Reds have a leg up on the majority of the teams in the National League. If it doesn't, then they can figure out what they want to go from there. But he definitely deserves another year of seeing what's going on, and the way that the Reds have everything planned with Joey being in his last year next year. It seems to be able to work itself out.
Ditto. I've exhausted this. I have
Yeah.
nothing else to add except for if you really are going to move him off catcher, trade him this offseason as a catcher, and someone else will gladly take him. Clay, the floor is yours.
I have nothing to add as well. Keep him at catcher. I don't see anyone in any other sport changing players' positions just because of injuries. Like, that's just not a thing. But in baseball, that apparently is a thing. Keep him where he's most valuable, which is catcher.
Yeah. So Ian asked if the fact that he's, too many guys are 6'4" behind the dish is his size making him too big of a magnet for these accidents. Ian, I really appreciate the concepts and the questions here, but this may potentially be a thing where we're looking a little too much into it. I think things just happened. I totally get the concern because he has been a really special talent for them. That what we saw in this season, right? Kind of seeing him kind of break out when he was on the field. But he is going to want to catch for the sake of like Carlos said, the arbitration. If you look at, we could talk about this. If you look at the trade market right now, how many catchers are out there that are like Wilson Contreras? Is that like it? Is there more that I'm missing? Like it seems
Sean
like Contreras.
Murphy.
Sean Murphy, yeah. But like other than that, it's like it's not a huge deep thing. So like Carlos said, he stays there and they have and he's still really good and he still hits well and he figures out like how to stay on the field. They have such a leg up on everyone. I mean, we just joked about Jacob, Andrew Kitzner, and we just watched Jacob Stallings play for the Marlins this week. I know he had 2 hits yesterday, but it's like, you're talking about those 2 guys and we have Tyler Stevenson. It sounds pretty nice.
Yeah. I mean, and maybe it's a different discussion if the Reds are legit contenders right now and they had a DH or a first base that they're playing that's not cutting it, but they're not contenders right now, and he wants to catch. Dude didn't catch 300 games in the minor leagues for the hell of it. You don't do all that and work to get to the big leagues to move to first base.
And just quickly about the height, I actually did some research on that 2 years ago, and there's only 2 players in the MLB that season taller or as tall as Tyler Stevenson behind the plate. Both were pretty insignificant players. I don't even remember who they are. However, that's kind of changing. We're starting to see some taller catchers. Sam Huff, who plays in Texas, he's kind of a backup catcher / prospect, is like uber tall. It's starting to become more and more of a thing, and you see it with a lot of these prospects. There's just taller catchers now. I think development in the lower levels are realizing how important catchers are. And we see that in football. Everyone started to transition their kids to wide receivers and DBs because that's where the money's made. And that's where you can see value. I think a lot of players at younger ages are starting to play catcher and developing into catchers because they realize the value they can bring. So I'm not as worried about the height.
Yeah, and the idea, like Resenfar is asking, is there a world where we can tap into more power if he's not squatting 9 innings for 150 games per year? He's way too young to even bring that into an equation right now. Like if he's 30 years old, then yeah, maybe. But he's not there yet. Like his legs are fresh. They're going to be fresh for a long time. So I really don't think that's even factors into the equation.
The most important part of a catcher's job is to call the game and to manage the pitching staff. And correct me if I'm wrong there, Carlos, but whatever you get with the bat is an added luxury. And that's what Carlos has been saying of why he is so valuable as a catcher. Because what you need to focus on, number one, and that's why you don't see as many good hitting catchers, is because they focus so much more on calling the game. And that's why it takes so long for them to develop in the minors. It's because in college, you don't call the game. It's called from the dugout. So you have to kind of learn how to call a game in the minors, and it takes longer. And that's why you see catchers debuting at 25 instead of 22, 23.
More on that tomorrow with our interview with Joe Katuska.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
No.
Look at this tease work that you guys are doing. You guys are getting this teasing.
Always
stuff
promoting, man.
Always promoting, always selling. So we did talk about Luis Castillo tonight, obviously, but Last two nights before tonight, Nick Lodolo and Hunter Green made starts against the Marlins, and back to back, they combined for 12 and a third, combined for 7 hits. I'm sorry, no, I got that wrong. They combined for just giving up 4 runs, only 2 are earned. 18 strikeouts. Pretty impressive, but by the two young guns, which you want to see as far as like having promising starts. And I know they lost 2-1 last night, but I thought Hunter Green was really good. I was there, got to see him in person. It was pretty impressive.
I thought it was very smart of the Reds to push them back to the Marlins, who are struggling hitting, especially Lodolo. The Marlins are, I think, the worst team against left-handed pitching, or towards the bottom. So I thought that was a very smart move. And hey, look, does dominating the Marlins mean a lot? Maybe not right now, but this is a big league team, and you want these guys to continue to develop and continue to build some confidence. So hey, I'm excited they got off to a good start. Hopefully these guys can have a really good second half. Green probably doesn't have all that much more left this season. I would think Lodolo still's got quite a bit because he has been hurt so much. But yeah, I mean, hey, nice to see those guys get off to a good start.
Yeah, well, Hunter's lined up to pitch in Miami next week too, right? I know we'll get to it later in the slides, but
yeah, I'm guessing they'll probably shut Hunter Green down sometime in September, probably early September.
Yeah, that's like 5 weeks away, and it doesn't seem like it.
I don't think he'll throw the whole year. I mean, if he does, I'll be okay with it because
I would be shocked, especially since they haven't really.
I would be shocked too. I'm not saying that's what I would want, but I'm like thinking what the Reds would do.
I'm thinking if they would be trying to get him all year, I don't think they would have been like letting him throw 118 pitches or whatever he threw. I think they would have been limiting his innings in game, and they haven't done that really all year. They've let him go out, full, as long as he could go.
What's his most innings pitched?
I think it was the 7 innings against the Pirates, wasn't it?
No, like total for a year.
Oh, sorry. I thought you meant per game.
While Nick looks that up, I'm sure what I've seen from these two pitchers, and I hope everyone can realize when I was saying I was higher on Lodolo than Green, I hope that they realize it wasn't a slight against Green, and we see why I was saying that about Lodolo. He's a special pitcher. Green is, kind of taking his bumps right now. He has good outings and really bad outings at times, but what you've seen from him in those highlight outings is what I think will start trending towards that. It'll be a lot more consistent going forward, which honestly, seeing these two pitchers pitch this way makes it a little bit easier for the Luis Castillo discussion. And I'm not saying they're going to become Luis Castillo. I'm just saying it's not like you're trading away a guy with nothing in the pipeline below you. So everyone should be excited about these two pitchers, including Graham Ashcraft, who I know has been a little bit shaky, but that's rookie pitching for you.
Yeah.
It's up and down.
Yeah, and like we've said, I know he's been hurt for most of the year, but Connor Overton looked pretty good too while he was with the Major League roster. Certainly a much lower ceiling than those three, and Chase Petty, Chase Petty just got called up to high A. So
yeah, Ashcraft's got a 4.05 FIP right now. So I mean, I consider his season a smashing success to this point.
Yeah, I do too. So
for our podcast audience, Green is up to 96.2 innings now. Last year he had 106.1 combined. So I don't know. What do they usually, Carlos? Is it like 30,
I would
40?
say 20 to 30 more. Yeah.
Extra. Yeah. So like, yeah, I mean, I guess, I don't know. I mean, they could.
Mid-September maybe.
I would think they're going to let him continue to just like pitch as deep into the games as he can go. I mean, they could do skipping a start, only having him go 3 or 4 innings, but I don't see them going that route.
Yeah, I would rather them let him go to the 7th inning than letting him have a couple of extra more games just to go to the 5th inning. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
I'm 100% with you on that. I
was just more saying I've seen some teams do that before, but
the Tigers did it last year with Casey Mize against the Reds. He got pulled in the 4th inning with a no-hitter, I believe.
Yeah. I think the Reds did it with Tyler Mount. Actually, he threw 100 pitches in 4 innings. but when he was against Arizona last year, he had a no-hitter. Yeah. Let's talk Jonathan India real quick because obviously, the last 15 games has been playing really well. What is he up to? I think he's up to. He's got again another hit tonight. I think he's got a hit in every game in this series so far, at least. Obviously, had the grand slam the other night on Monday. So Clay, you weren't on when we had this conversation a couple weeks ago. So I am curious your thoughts. We discussed with his defensive issues at second base and his strong arm. Could you see a situation in the future where Jonathan India goes back to where he was drafted as a third baseman?
I could see that. I could also see him moving to left field. He has the athletic ability to become a good outfielder if they go that route. I don't think that he's going to stick at second, just from what I've seen. The Reds have some infield prospects, as we all know. I'm sure that we'll get to some, but I don't think a move to left field's out of the question. I hope they do it in the offseason and not what the Reds have been accustomed to doing and just throwing players at positions they've never played in the middle of the season. So yeah, I'm sorry. I was reading the message that Evan put on the
Jack Curry. He's the Yankees television reporter just reported that they got Benintendi. So
is there a return yet? Because that could impact Castillo.
I will let you know when I find out but it doesn't look like anything's been reported yet.
So I guess they're not worried about those couple trips. Guess they're not too worried about those trips to Toronto.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that maybe makes Mahle on the table. I don't think Mahle for other reasons. I think they want like that.
Yeah,
legit
I agree.
Ace field.
Is there somebody, Nick? Is there somebody they could keep to, since the MLB and MLPA didn't agree to terms of the international draft that the Reds might want to keep? They could get somebody better.
You talk like the qualifying offer?
Yeah.
I think Mahle maybe. I think Castillo, in my opinion, I mean, he should get way more than anything you would get in a qualifying offer. So I don't think it changes, in my opinion, Castillo. Mahle is maybe a possibility. Again, if you're not getting a great piece back offered right now, then you hold on to him. Maybe you look at trading him again in this offseason. And if you can't, well, hey, bring him into next year, see what happens with kind of the rest of the core. And then maybe you think about extending him, maybe not, and you get a qualifying offer at the end of the year. So I think Mahle maybe changes it, but again, I'm still shopping him if I'm the Reds. But it makes it makes me not as desperate to trade him, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, big news while we're live, but yeah, it's just I like what Clay was saying. I didn't even think about left field. Like we said, a lot of these plays he's making at second base are strictly his athleticism, just kind of kicking in. So we know this probably isn't where he's the most comfortable. So really kind of excited to
get like swole like Dan Ugla, just be like,
or like his dad.
Remember Dan Ugla? Like I didn't. That guy's forearms were the size of my torso.
What was it? Cespedes Barbecue. We've had them on a couple times. They have a segment on their show called The Good, the Bad, the Ugla. It's pretty funny. Yeah. So Benintendi for 3 minor leaguers. We head back to the Royals, according to Jeff Passan. Also, shout out Nick Kirby getting that out as fast as like the tweet being posted. So shout out Nick. Wow. Always love when news breaks while we're on the show and completely throws everybody off. So let's get to some Reds minor league rehab assignment updates real quick.
One more quick point on India before we move on. And I just wanted to add this. I definitely think, man, if Jonathan India can finish this year strong offensively, I agree that they should probably look at moving him. I think that makes me feel so much better about the Reds long term. So
me too.
My only thing to add. All right, rehab assignment updates presented by Bet Online. Art Warren threw a bullpen session this past week, so he's looking at going on a rehab assignment soon. Justin Dunn, not pitching very well for Louisville, was actually reinstated and then optioned. So kind of interesting if the Reds.
That's no bueno, right?
No, not good, Bob.
It's only 5 starts, so I don't want to panic yet, but he has struggled. So be interesting to see if the Reds did trade Castillo and Mahle. if he gets called up or not, or if they hold up, have him try to get a little more confidence going. Albert Almora Jr. started a rehab assignment tonight. Jake Fraley, 108 rated runs created plus through his first 10 games at AAA. And Aristides Aquino, 7 home runs, 187 weighted runs created plus in 17 games with the Louisville Bats this season. So congrats to Aristides Aquino on a fantastic rehab
If
assignment.
there's
so
a definition of a 4A player, it's Aristides Aquino.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to Late Night Red Talk Prospect Watch presented by Bet Online. Elly De La Cruz in his first 4 games at AA, 4 for 18, so off to a little bit of a slow start.
That's the one. That's the one.
Matt McClain, he's up to a 118 weighted runs created plus on the season, 12 home runs, 16 stolen bases. Alan Cerda, 19 home runs, 125 weighted runs created plus. He's up at Chattanooga, promoted just before De La Cruz. And then Chase Petty, 3.18 ERA so far this season. So I believe Clay had a little bit to talk about each one of those guys. So Clay, the floor is yours.
I'll go in order. Elly, I don't think I need to talk much about. I'll save Carlos the time there. I think everyone's talked and read enough about Elly De La Cruz, incredible player. Matt McClain, he's only played shortstop, which is interesting to me because I thought that they would try to move him around some. He's played just primarily shortstop. So I figured that, maybe they'd put him in the outfield or put him at second and third or something. The walk rate's great, 14.3% walk rate, 30.5% strikeout rate is a little bit concerning. A little bit more power than last year. I wish we had the launch angle stats on him. I know Carlos is going to laugh when I say that. 16 stolen bases, so a little bit of speed there as well. His speed score, Carlos, listen closely here. Speed scores, we're talking about a prospect. 8.5 out of 10. A lot of speed.
Oh shit, that's dope.
For Matt. A lot of speed for Matt McClain. 49.7% pull percentage, which is a little bit higher than I'd like to see for his profile. Alan Cerda, a player that I really like. This is a boomer bust type, and the reason why I asked Nick to highlight him this week is because he's on the 40-man roster. This is a similar situation that we saw to Jose Siri when he was on the 40-man roster. Not exactly polished enough to be called up. Had to put him on to protect him from the Rule 5. This is a guy who's probably going to get a chance in 2023. For 14.3%, or I'm sorry, 16.9% walk rate, 36.5% K rate in high A. In double A, he's not performed well. It's been a short stint in double A. 13.3% walk rate. Pretty much he's a 3 true outcome guy. He's going to draw a walk, he's going to strike out, or he's going to hit a home run. His swing is just all or nothing. He needs to calm the swing down a little bit and maybe put some more balls in play. But if you just type his name in on YouTube and just watch his home runs, like crazy pop. If he can put it all together, and you see his WRC plus is high because of his slugging and on base is helping out as well. I do think he could play a role into the future of the Reds. He just has to quiet that swing down and make a little bit more contact instead of striking out so much, which could, lessen the power, but we'll see. Chase Petty, a lot of people were concerned with his velo coming into the year. What you have to understand is when he was in high school throwing 100 miles per hour, you strike everybody out in high school with 100. You don't have to locate it at all. When he was brought into the Reds, they decided to lessen the velo and teach him to pitch more, is at least my take on him. Teach the command, show him how to pitch instead of throw. Right now, he's at 8.31 Ks per 9, 3.18 walks per 9, 59.8% ground ball rate, a ground ball machine. We like to hear that, right, Carlos? His last outing, he touched 96. He had been about 93, 94, 95. He touched 96 last outing, so maybe things were starting to trigger in the right direction there. The slider, 81 to 83 miles per hour. If you can get 96 and a slider at 81, 83 with good movement, and he does have great movement on his pitches, I think Chase Petty is a better prospect than I initially thought. From what I've seen, he just turned 19 years old. He turned 3 months ago, and he's already in high A. I thought it was an aggressive assignment. I thought he'd finish the year in low A this season, but the Reds know a lot more than I do.
I just want to say one thing about these prospects. So, being up in Cincinnati this weekend, I was able to talk to a buddy of mine who so happens to play professional baseball. He says, if you throw 101 miles an hour, I don't give a shit. We are all geared up for it. We can do whatever we want for it. What else do you have? So I'm so like these prospects throwing as hard as they can. Cool story. Tell me about pitch number 2 and number 3.
I'm more
That's the most
concerned with
important
late
thing with
movement.
every one of them.
Yeah. I'd rather see late movement on pitches than velo. The most important velo is exit velocity. That's the most important velo. I don't care how fast you're throwing. How fast is it coming off the bat? That's what I want to know. You can throw 100 miles per hour, but if it's constantly coming off the bat hard, who cares? I mean, Joe Mantiply is pitching really well this year, and he's throwing a fastball 7% of the time out of the bullpen. He doesn't throw fast, but he's effective because he misses barrels. He's allowed, I think, 1 or 2 barrels all year long. That's the more impressive thing. Late movement. I recently read a book by Jason Kendall, who was a catcher for years in the MLB. And he talked about, as a catcher's perspective, he cared more about pitchers with late movement because it's so much harder to square up. And that's what's more important than throwing 100 miles per hour. I know it's not sexy on Twitter with the highlight reels and the pitching ninja stuff, but if you have late movement on your pitches, and there is a great YouTube video, I'll send it to Nick if he wants it for any reason, but it's a video behind the plate, and you can see the movement on Chase Petty's stuff. And you can see that late movement, and you can see the balls breaking well. It's not straight at all. We obviously don't have the advanced data to the public on his pitches, but I'm sure it would grade well.
The only other thing I would add, kind of more of a question, I guess, for Carlos. I mean, sure, I'm with you. Movement is huge, and I totally agree with everything you're saying. But the velocity does make the margin for error a little bit bigger, right? I mean,
Nope, not anymore. That was a thing like 5-6 years ago. But everybody is throwing 96 to 98. It's not a thing anymore. That velocity is out the window. That's cool. But if you can throw 96 wherever you want at the 4 corners of the zone, then we're talking.
So I have here a list. You can't see it. Sorry, I thought you'd be able to. It's the top 20 pitchers with average fastball velocity in the MLB. And you're probably wondering, okay, how many of them are good? Number 1's Hunter Green. I'm not going to read the whole list. Spencer Strider, Corbin Burns, Sandy Alcantara, Garrett Cole, Shohei, Luis, Dylan Cease. I mean, it's mostly good pitchers. Now, what those pitchers also have is movement. You don't see anybody on here. I'm looking right now. There's Rosani Contreras and Mitch Keller. Those are the 2 that you're probably thinking they shouldn't be in that caliber. So I do think velo matters. I just don't think it's the only way to be a good pitcher. I just think too many people focus strictly on velo only. Obviously, if you have that, it's going to help your secondaries if they're at a drastic difference in speed. But at the end of the day, you have to locate it. So if you have velo and you can't locate it, welcome to the bullpen and welcome to AA, and you're not going to make it.
2 more quick questions we got from the chat before we move on to the schedule. We'll let Tim do that. Adam, is it going to take a Farmer trade for Barrero to play this year? I mean, I think Farmer gets traded here at the deadline, but if he's not, I mean, I think Barrero is going to be up soon. If Drury's moved, I mean, there's going to be spots to either move Farmer or move Barrero. You can fight about that. I don't really care. I just want him up getting at bats more than anything else.
Pereira did hit an opposite field home run tonight as well, which is a great sign.
Yeah. The Reds are going to want him up soon to start seeing what he's got. And then the other thing, does TJ Antone exist? Antone's out for the year. So we're hoping that he can come back next year. And I mean, look, you get Antone, Sims, and Diaz all healthy. I mean, man, you could really turn a crap bullpen into a pretty good bullpen out of nowhere, right? So,
Yeah.
And then we did get the return, so we'll go ahead and do that. Yankees sent Beckway, Chandler Champion, and TJ Seichman to the Royals for Benintendi. None of those players were anyone I ever mentioned in Reds talks, so I don't think that impacts Castillo.
I can help you out with the top 30 for them.
Read them player by player first, please, if you don't mind.
Yeah. Beckway was the first name mentioned, and I see him at number 21 in the top 30 prospects for the Yankees according to Pipeline. Nick has it up. Sorry, Nick, I was trying to buy you a little bit of time there.
I had it from the previous slides we had a Yankees podcast, so yeah.
Do you have the rest of the top 30 or just the top 10?
Just the top 11. You can't fit 30.
Okay, well, then pull those names back up because they're not in the top 11.
So, yeah, I mean, it really doesn't impact Castillo at all.
They got the 21. They got number 19, which is Seichman, and I think the other one was not in the top 30, according to Pipeline. That seems like an extremely light return to me.
Yeah, so they got plenty to give for Castillo.
Yeah. That is very strange to me. Andrew Benintendi is a really good player. He's not a power bat, but that seems light. I know his deal's expiring, but even then, that seems...
I remember seeing that Benintendi was the number one... who was it that had him as the number one player at the deadline? Clearly, they were dead wrong. I don't remember who it was, but someone ranked him as number one. I was like,
was it Keith Law? That sounds like a Keith.
Or no. He wasn't number one. He was, I think, Contreras was number one. He was two, but he was ahead of Castillo, and I was like, "There's no way. There's no."
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Reds and Forest got it, of course. MLB Trade Rumors was who did it, and I don't understand that.
Yeah. All right, so here's the schedule coming up. Obviously, tomorrow is the final game with the Marlins. Graham Ashcraft taking the ball against Daniel Castano. And then the 10-game homestand ends this weekend with the Orioles coming to town for 3. Mike Minor versus Dean Creamer, Tyler Mahle versus Austin Voth, and Nick Lodilla versus Spencer Watkins. If you look at the Orioles, they're like a really funny team because they just won 10 in a row. They're in last place, but they're 2 games above 500. And as I mentioned earlier, 2.5 out of the wild card in the American League. So kind of a really unique baseball club. Actually, are they still in last place? They passed the Red Sox. So how bad the Red Sox have been? I can't remember.
They just passed the Red Sox. I do have okay. Sorry. Go on.
No. You're good. And then, yeah, they got the Marlins for 3 next week in Miami. And then they play the Brewers next weekend. So
I'm looking at the schedule ahead, and I do have one comment about Austin Voth, actually. Austin Voth. He made a comment that when he moved from Washington, he was on the Nationals, to Baltimore, he's pitched well. And he said the reason why is because they have advanced stats and analytics that Washington does not have. And it just goes to show you there's still teams light years behind. And luckily, the Reds are not one of those teams. They have plenty in that department, which is a good sign. I mean, you're hearing an MLB pitcher saying he has more availability to his pitch movements, his advanced analytics on each pitch than he did with another team in 2022. It's just scary to think about.
Only thing I would say to that is, sometimes it's just a change of scenery thing. I mean, the Nationals had like Strasburg and Scherzer, and they had an elite rotation and won a World Series. So, I mean,
at one point, Patrick Corbin was decent for them at one point.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That could just be, a change of scenery thing. But
he legitimately said that he himself said that they have more information on his pitches in Baltimore than Washington.
More information that helped him. Maybe is how I would interpret it. Hey, maybe he's right, but I don't. I'm just saying I don't take all that. Take all that with a grain of salt.
It's got to be better than what's his face in Toronto asking who Joey Votto was.
Austin Manoah.
Yeah, Manoah asked who Joey Votto was. That was pretty funny. Yeah, we're coming up on the Field of Dreams game here in a couple weeks too. So I guess
a lot
that's
of away
cool.
games.
Yeah, after just playing like forever and a day at home, literally had 6 games on the road in July, and then then August they're home for 8 home games in August. So hopefully you got your chance to go to the ballpark in July because it's gonna be a little bit more difficult next month. But yeah, I think we can go ahead and wrap this up here. This was a lot of fun. Thanks everyone. Yeah, please make sure tomorrow, 8 p.m. everywhere that our show is, whether it's just here at the YouTubes, Instagram, Stitcher, social media, whatever, Spotify, Apple Podcast. Nick and Carlos's conversation with the Reds Director of Amateur Scouting, Joe Katuska. A lot of really good insight, a lot of really great conversation. So it's really good. I bummed I had to miss it. But you guys make sure you please check it out. You're going to be really, really excited with that interview. So thank you guys for tuning in. We greatly appreciate it. And of course, if you're checking us out, make sure you go to Bet Online and get your sign up for your 50% welcome bonus. Everyone have a good night, and we will see you next week or tomorrow.
And if there's any big trades that happen, we'll try to come on with a emergency show that night if we're able to make it work. So stay tuned. Go Reds.
Thank you.